Welcome back. In this video, I would like to give you a little bit of an introduction to JetPack and an overview of what JetPack even is. And you can see here, there is an extra website here on the developer.android.com/JetPack, which gives you a lot more details on what JetPack really is about and what is new and the JetPack libraries. And basically, it's just a suite of libraries. So a combination of libraries, and it allows the developers to be more efficient when developing Android applications. So basically, it's a suite of libraries. It helps developers to follow best practices by reducing boilerplate code and by making sure that the application runs consistently across Android versions and devices, so that we as developers can really focus on the code rather than really having to look into how things are done in a more complex way. So basically, it really saves us a lot of time and makes sure that everyone is developing the same way, more or less, right? So that it's also easier to work together, because if everyone works the same way, it's a lot easier to read the code and understand it and also make updates to the code and so forth. And it also provides backward compatibility, which is pretty cool. So it also runs on older versions of Android. And you can just go ahead and build your code without thinking too much about how it's going to work across the different versions, so to speak. Really powerful tool, a lot of different libraries, and we're going to cover many of those, the most popular ones that are going to be important for your life as a developer throughout the course. So in order to use JetPack components, you need to go ahead and go to your build.gradle file. And in your project, you need to add under all project repositories Google. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have that there, and then you will be able to use JetPack. And usually, if you start a new project, it will be there by default, so you don't even have to add it there manually. But just make sure that it's there when you create a new project. And then, in order to use specific components of that JetPack library suite, you need to add a dependency or multiple dependencies, really depending on what kind of components you're going to use. So if you want to use live data and view model, you need to enter the version as well as at the implementation Android X lifecycle minus live data minus KTX, and then the version in this particular case. And then the same goes here for the view model. So you can see here the only difference is this view model keyword, but I would really recommend to just check out what the explicit implementation code is that you will need for the component that you want to use throughout your application. So what are the advantages of JetPack? Well, we saw in the overview that there are some advantages, and they were already pretty powerful and strong advantages, but there are some more advantages that I wanted to talk about real quick. And one thing is, it may be used alone or in combination to address different needs. So you can either use JetPack or you can use the default Android implementations or even other libraries, and it works flawlessly together. Then you have, for example, the Work Manager library, which allows you to take care of notifications or in general services that you want to run after a certain period of time or regularly. And the Work Manager is just going to help you to do it in a clean and safe manner. Then you have the Room library, which allows you to work with your SQLite database in a very clean and efficient way. And this then, of course, allows you to build applications which store a lot of data, and you can access it very easily without thinking too much about it. You can really just work with objects pretty much using the view models and basically an architecture that you need to set up first. But we're going to look into that throughout the course to build a Room database in our application. Then navigation is an important part. So if you want to move from one activity, for example, to another, you need to take care of some things. And also when passing data from one screen to another, that is something that can be quite tedious work. But with the navigation component of JetPack, it's becoming a lot easier. So you can move between different fragments as well as activities flawlessly, also passing data with safe args, so safe arguments. So very, very powerful tool, really helpful. I'm going to see how to do that as well. And then Camera X, so using different camera features directly without having to develop too much yourself. Camera X is going to really help you out there. And of course, there are a bunch more libraries. As you can see on the website, there are, I don't know exactly how many, but at least 50 different libraries that are part of Android JetPack. And many of them are there even without Jetpack or have been part of the Android suite even without Jetpack. So you might have already seen how to use that before in the past, but now you're going to see how to use it in Jetpack and how it extends the functionality. And then the libraries are published in the namespace of Android X, as you have seen earlier when we looked at the dependencies that we implemented. So for example, the live data dependency that we added. And here is just a little overview of some of the different libraries that are part of the Android Jetpack suite. So you can see there is a whole bunch of architecture libraries as well as for UI, behavior, and foundation. Okay, so architecture are things such as data binding or even view binding, which is the latest version of data binding that we're going to cover. Then life cycles, they've been there before, but that's part of the architecture of Jetpack. Live data, which is also used when working with the room, navigation, paging, and so forth. So you can see a lot going on here, and we're going to cover roughly 80% of the keywords that you see here throughout the application so that you get a feeling for what they can do for you and how you can use them for your future applications when building any kind of app in the future. All right, so that's it for this video. Now you have a little bit of an overview what is about to come. So I'd say let's dive into the different components step by step and see you in the next video.